You're listening to the Resilient Author Podcast, the show that goes beyond the pages to explore the grit, courage, and resilience it takes to write and publish a book. I'm your host, Carrie Human, and each week I sit down with authors to uncover the stories behind their stories, the challenges they faced, the breakthroughs they experienced, and the wisdom they've gained along the way. Whether you're working on your first chapter or celebrating your launch, this is the place to find inspiration and practical takeaways for your own author journey. Let's dive in.
So, Nadine, for those who may not know you yet, what's your book about, and what do you hope readers take away from it?
Okay, so The Grey Between is basically like a documentation of 20 to 30 years of my life. I've always used writing as a form of therapy for myself. I'm neurodivergent, and only basically 2 years ago I was diagnosed as being autistic. So for me, I've basically lived my whole life feeling like I didn't fit in. And it was writing for me was my way of processing the world around me. And I utilized that in a way to sort of be able to write things down that I would hear, or that people would talk to me or say, or when traumatic experiences were occurring to me, I would write these things down, and then I could basically objectively look at them on the paper and then work out what was going on. And so my poetry has always been written basically for myself. And like early on it started off not necessarily as being poetic, but the way I sort of wrote basically turned out to be very poetic, and hence over the years it sort of my skill craft developed more. So The Grey Between is really about everyday life and the trauma that we experience in everyday life, from my perspective, obviously. But it's something that we can all basically connect with. And there are moments that people will resonate with when they're reading, because these things happen to all of us. And at the end of the day, my hope is that people can read my work and feel a connection to it and realize that what they're experiencing, we all experience. And just that feeling of not being alone, sort of not having that isolation in the world and being able to connect with other people. And in this instance, it's through the paper, through the book. I recall quite when I was young, feeling like I really had no one to talk to, like no one that I could express myself to. So for me, I really leaned heavily on being able to write. And so I think sometimes we just need to be able to express ourselves, and we can't all have someone to talk to or someone to do that or to share that with. So my hope is that they would get that from the book itself. So I've basically got it written into like 3 different sections. I've got the between, the black, and the white. And these represent sort of moments for me where I basically live my life. It's very cut and dry. It's either black or it's white, as in, you know, good things or bad things. And then there's the grey between, where we have these shades of ambiguity, or, you know, things aren't quite cut and dry. And often I find that I've had to sort of feel as if I was living in that grey zone, sort of trying to stay under the radar. Especially like when I was younger, I was bullied a lot in early years of school, right through to high school, and even in my adult life, I came across it a lot. So for me, I always tried to stay out of the spotlight, you know, sort of hide in those sort of dark corners. So the book very much sort of is that feel for me, like my life in the shadows. And I'm also a radiographer by trade, so I deal with the shadows, basically taking x-rays. Often the image is the shadow that's left behind from the radiation. So again, it's just this sort of representation of my life. And yeah, so I write about, like I've said, everyday life, the trauma that occurs in everyday life, the relationships that we have between people, the imploding moments, motherhood. I write about autism or neurodivergence. So basically, overarching themes are like love, loss, grief, betrayal, acceptance, perseverance, all of those sort of things. And my resilience, how I move through all of that with a little bit of spice, just for added flavor. But yeah, so that's basically the book. It's just my 30 odd years of life and those moments that I've sort of interacted against people and how I move through it in poetry. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we have a lot to unpack, and I definitely want to dive into this a bit more. You know, most books for a lot of people begin as a spark. You know, maybe it's a question we can't stop thinking about, or maybe it's just a story that just won't leave us alone. Where
Mm.
did the idea for the book come from? Like, was there a specific moment? I know you said it's a poetry book, but when did you say to yourself, like, I need to put this into a book?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things like I've just been writing since I first learned how to write. English is not my first language, and I basically didn't speak until I was at school. So, and I think that's the autism, although it wasn't picked up early on. I basically had a brother, and I would just point and he would go do stuff, or he basically would communicate for me. So I think my mother would always just say, let her speak, but it was never picked up. And so for me, writing was my way of expression. And it was, like I said, it was just for me. So I have like notebooks of pages and pages of just words or moments, etc. And it wasn't until I was probably, at high school, we were introduced to poetry per se. And that's when I kind of really connected with it. And I'm sorry, I'm giving you the long story here. And I was dyslexic, well, I am dyslexic as well. So reading was a real issue for me. And I found poetry I could absorb. I could work out what was being written. I could comprehend it. And I think often because the essence of it is there in short form. So I really connected with that. And it's just, like I said, it's one of those things that I always did. So when I was probably in my 20s, I already had 3 kids at that point. The marriage was sort of on bumpy grounds. And I found I was really sort of leaning more on the ability to get those words out and what I was feeling. So I have lots of poems that I was sort of producing in those times. And I did actually go do it was an advanced certificate in creative writing at the time, because I thought, well, you know, I'm doing this, I'm writing, I like it, it's giving me a sense of peace. Let's get some craft into it. So I learnt craft, and it was that first year of sort of writing formally was brilliant for me, because it actually developed, like I said, my word craft. It gave me a sense of confidence. My writing teacher would always ask us to get up and read our poems, and every time we had class, we'd have to read and write. So it was sort of this discipline in a way, but I was surrounded by other writers, and so we buoyed each other up as well, which was really good. Anyway, long story short, he encouraged me to send my work off, and actually that was my first published poetry was in New York. So it's kind of formally started from then. So I was sending out poems, they were getting published, my confidence was being built, and I started amassing this sort of manuscript. And basically life gets in the way. My marriage imploded. And then I realized I had to get a job, you know, that would help support me, to put a roof over my head, put food on the table, look after my 3 kids. And I hadn't any qualifications. I'd left school early originally at 16 because of the dyslexia and the autism. And although it was not diagnosed and I didn't know I had it, I just struggled at school. And so I just had nothing. And for me, it made sense to go back to school and actually finish my education. So I thought I actually need some sort of decent career that would generate enough money to sort of be able to be financially independent. So I went back as a 30-year-old to high school and did year 11, year 12, got into medical radiations degree at university, did that, became a radiographer, worked at that for a decade or so, and still producing poems, chucking them into that manuscript and just getting on with life. And then life continued. I met my second husband, had a 4th baby, stumbled into university teaching and became an academic teaching into medical radiation. So I've been doing that for the last 12 years. And then one night I'm having dinner with another writer friend of mine, and he knew of my manuscript that literally had been sitting in my office drawer for like 20 years. I kid you not. And he says, why don't you just send that manuscript off? And I thought, oh, yeah, I think I will. And I did. So that went off last year in September. And Hill of Content are my publishers, and they accepted it. And they've been so supportive. And it got printed and released in July. And here we are. So it's just like, it's not like I ever set out to actually make a book or write a book or have a book published, but circumstances kind of just opened up in the end after I'd done all that initial work. And that initial work was purely therapeutic for me. It was my lifeline, my way of breathing, existing, and my form of resilience. So in effect, it just became, and here we are. And I literally last night, I've just finished my second manuscript and sent that off. So this is where I'm at now, you know, and I've turned 60. I'm at that point in my life where I can now write to my heart's content, and time is more on my side now. My children are all adults, grown up, and I'm in a happy second marriage, feeling very supported. And life just is enjoyable now, and it's great. So I'm going with the flow.
Yeah, that you said a lot there. Okay, so I'll start here. So I don't think a lot of people could imagine going back to school in their 30s, let alone earning multiple degrees, doing this while raising small children in a difficult environment. You mentioned your first marriage sort of imploded. What helped you find the courage to keep going during those days, during those years, I should say?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things that being a mother, look, this applies for guys as well. It's not just females, but for me at the time, it was the small children that I had, and I'd lost myself in the marriage. As you know, it was very emotionally abusive and financially constraining, and you know, without getting into that too much, I was at the point where I was so oppressed and squashed that, like I've mentioned, I had lost myself and my identity, and the wake up was there, and I sort of thought, I don't want my kids or I've got all girls. I don't want my daughters to see that as the role model, that I was, that example of how to live in a relationship was not right. And I knew it was not right. And I thought, I've got to do something, because I don't want them to model my life moving forward. And I thought, I've got to break this cycle somehow. And the only way to do that literally was, I've got to re-educate myself, and I've got to be independent. And I did. So it was a necessity that really focused me to do what I had to do. And it was hard. I kid you not, it was hard. I would literally take them to school, then drive myself to school, stay at school all day. Any break that I had, I'd be doing my, reading, notes, study, and then finish school, go pick them up, take them home, cook for them, bathe them, help them with their homework, put them to bed, and then I would start doing my homework, and I wouldn't get to bed till probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's not good for your clear thinking, but it was what I had to do, and I did it. And I achieved a really good university entry score, got in, and the rest basically played itself out. And I think often careers or work-related sort of objectives are really lost on the young. Often we sort of need to be a little bit older in life to actually sort of understand where we fit in and what we want to pursue. And I think that was basically on my side at that point of my life, because I had spent a lot of time in radiology departments as a small child. I would always fall over and break a bone. So for me, that was a really familiar environment. And Mum had TB when she was young. Both my father and my mother were from Europe. So we were always having to have chest x-rays as children to make sure that we didn't have TB. And so for me, when it came time to actually work out what career to pursue, it just was a no-brainer. I thought, yeah, x-rays, that's where I want to go. And luckily, I had the capacity to actually achieve that. So it was never, I don't know, I think when you talk to other people, yeah, they have this sort of, oh, this is what I want to be. And I didn't have that per se. When I was young, I wanted to be a ballet dancer, So it's like, I think I was just like every other kid. But the reality was I was in this environment that was not good for me, for my mental health. And I had to get out, and eventually did get out. So yeah, it was more for a need to survive. And writing, like I said, was always there as my crutch to help me through it.
Wow. Yeah, I really have a soft spot in my heart for single parents, specifically single mothers, because I was raised by one. And
Yeah,
yeah, as kids, you just never really know what your parent is
no,
doing until you get older and you
no,
have your own kids, and you're like, how did you do that by yourself?
yeah.
You
And
know, so I, mm,
we're all just doing the best we can at the time. And I
mhm.
think that's the hard thing when you're growing up, the kid, you don't really see that, like you said, until you're in your parents' shoes and you've got children of your own. And then you suddenly realize there's no rule book.
Wow.
It's like, what's happening? You just deal with it. You can't take time off. You've got to be
Wow.
there. You've got to show up,
Mm.
so you feel me, I feel you.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're all just doing the best we can,
Mm.
and even people without kids are doing the best they can.
Mm.
And that's all we can do. I mean, that's life, and you've just got to make the most of it. And when it's bad, it's bad. Like my mum always says, you've basically got to go through the mud quagmire and have some stick to get to the other side and really appreciate the beauty around you. Because
Mm.
without the awful stuff, you don't appreciate. You take the good stuff for granted. And so for me, I've always had that mindset that, yep, stuff's going to happen, but it's not my fault. Stuff happens to all of us, and it's not like we deserve it or we're being punished. It's just life.
Mm.
And so for me, I always thought that, okay, it's okay to be sad in that moment or to experience the grief or the pain or the trauma, but to realize it's just transient. It will go, it will pass. And so what defines you is how you move through it. And those experiences make us who we are, but it doesn't define us. Like I'm repeating myself, but what does define us is how we have moved through. And I think that's always been my mindset of, well, I've just got to keep moving.
Mm.
Things will will be different once I sort of move through that. And I think that has really helped me with my resilience. But I've always had the writing. That has been my outlet. That's enabled me to get that pain out or that anxiety out. And I don't carry it in my head. If it's on the paper, it's freed me. And so I think that's really important. And not everyone has writing as a fallback. They might paint or they might garden or they might cook. It's sort of finding those little moments that give us pleasure and give us sort of peace, and we can focus quietly on it. And we've all got that. It's just sort of being able to recognize that we've got something that will do that for us. And I'm lucky that I at least found that early and I've sort of relied on it. And now I can really enjoy it. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I'm gonna take a detour, but before I do that, Nadine, I just want to say I truly admire your strength and your courage, and I just want to say I feel like your daughters are lucky to have you because it sounds like you definitely haven't given up and you're continuing to sort of reinvent and move yourself forward, which I imagine they probably really appreciate having you as a mom. So I just want to
Thank you.
just acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. It's very sweet. I hope they
Yeah.
appreciate it too. You never know with kids.
You never you never know. You can only hope, right? You can only do the best you can do, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm. So
No, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Every author, experiences sort of their own journey as they're going to publish, whether they go the traditional route, some go
Mhm.
hybrid. A lot of authors I talk to are, self-published. Which path did you take, and what was the most challenging or rewarding part of just actually getting your book out and seeing it
Yeah.
in people's hands?
I went the traditional way, so I published with Hill of Content Publishing. There are a smaller boutique publishing house which suits me as a poet.
Mm.
So I don't feel like I'm lost in the you must produce and you must be making money because who makes money with poetry? Um, so in a way, I'm not doing this to generate money. I'm just doing this because like I said, it's like breathing. It's just
Mm.
something that I do. So they've been super supportive, and I think the surreal moment was when I got the book in my hand. It's
Mm.
like, please wake me up. It's like, so I think I'm still in that sort of, whoa, is this really happening?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's lovely. It's a lovely experience. I think it's like having kids, you see something that's part of you and you just look at it, admiring it. It's like, wow.
Mm.
So yeah, oh, I don't know. It never felt like it was such, I guess it was a struggle leading up to it because that was my life.
Mm.
But I just, like we've talked about this, it's just something that I did, I had to do. So it was just this like the icing on top of the cake when they accepted the manuscript and then following the stages along the way and getting the proofs and then getting my author's copies and getting the website up, my author's website, and then creating the Instagram. And it's just like I'm on this roller coaster of enjoyment at the moment. And yeah, and I think
Mm.
there were moments where I'm thinking, oh, is anyone going to actually buy the book? And I'm thinking, it doesn't matter. It's out there. I'm published.
Mm.
People obviously liked it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have said, yes, we'll publish you. So I've just got to get away from that imposter syndrome a bit and just settle into it. So I guess it's still early days for me. But
Mm.
yeah, it was surreal when the book arrived. It really was. And oh, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm not doing a good job. I think I'm
No,
really,
I think you did a great job. You were talking about you even compared it to like almost like not necessarily having a kid. It's not the same, but when you first get
yeah,
your book, you're like, wow, this is amazing. I did it.
yeah,
I wrote it. Absolutely. That resonates.
yeah.
So just to double tap on that, writing a book for a lot of people is kind of like a bucket list thing. A lot of people just they don't get around to it. Like once your book
Mhm.
was actually out in the world, and you became a published poet, published author. How did things shift for you, in your work, in your relationships, or just even in how
Yeah.
you view your own story now?
It's been really weird. I literally retired from university academia in June of this year, having turned
Congratulations.
60. All right.
Wow.
So I thought, I've had enough of that. I enjoyed it, loved teaching, but I was at that point where, I really actually wanted to do other things. And that also coincided with the book coming out. And then I thought, I think I'll just literally concentrate on writing now. And that decision was kind of like a cathartic release, because it kind of meant that I was financially okay in my life. I was in a good place, good relationship. My kids had all grown up. We just have our youngest living at home now, and she's 20. So life is not challenging like it was when all those awful things were happening to me.
Mm,
And it was like, I can actually take a step back and enjoy a slower pace. But it doesn't feel it's any slower. I've been so busy
mm,
writing
mm.
and doing the podcast, sort of the marketing aspect. And then it's kind of weird because writers just want to write, and like, I have to what? I have to do this interview. It's like, oh, so it's like I've taken on a new career. So
Mhm,
I've been so busy.
mm,
Um, but that's been exciting too. It's nice to, it's like yeah, it's a new career. And
mm,
and it's not that I've taken on new learning. I've just been able to utilize an older skill set that I developed. And so it's comfortable. Yeah, it's comfortable.
mm,
It still pushes me though. It's still a little challenging, but it's an enjoyable challengement. And
mm,
like I said to you earlier, I've just finished the second book and
mm,
have taken that off to the publishing house. So hopefully next year we'll see another one.
mm,
Oh, it's a lovely process at the moment, yeah. And I'm off to Europe on Monday, so I'm going to take some time off and then feel the well, basically, and
mhm,
see a bit more of the world, which is something that I love travel, but I stopped doing it when I had kids.
mm.
And so obviously I haven't traveled overseas since the 80s, so it's been
Oh, wow.
years. Yeah, so
Well,
it's kind of, I really feel like I've got my life back. Yeah, it's great.
mm,
Yeah.
long overdue. Are you going to the warmer part of Europe or the colder part of Europe?
Well, it's going cold. We're in we're in spring here in Australia at the moment. So
Mhm,
next December is obviously the start of summer. So yeah, I'm gonna miss all of that. We're going into the cold. But it'll be nice when we come back. It'll be summer here, so yeah, it'll be
mm.
sweet. Really
Yeah.
looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, we woke up to -5 today, so you're in for a winter wonderland for sure.
Oh, I can see like outside the sky is blue here. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we definitely miss the blue skies, but we get the
Yeah.
northern lights and that's pretty
Yeah.
cool to see.
How exciting.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
So Nadine, we've talked about this, obviously this is the theme of the podcast, resilience. It tends to show up different for everyone. Sometimes it's discipline, sometimes it's faith, and other times it could just be your community. What what would you say resilience looks like for you like these days?
I think it's my attitude. I've always tried to live in the moment, be present, accept people at face value, and just keep
Mm,
moving. And I think that has been the thing that I think would without it, a lot of people would have been destroyed by the things that I've had to deal with.
mm,
And Yeah, I think that's what like just being forever hopeful. Um, what can I say? We're yeah. I'm lost for words now.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
that
that's
was,
it for me.
mm,
Yeah. It's just that
that,
mindset of, yeah, it's bad now. What do I have to do? Let's go.
mm, mm. Well, so I did have a chance to do a little bit of homework. I haven't finished your book, but I did a little bit of homework. You've written and you've talked about it, but you've written powerfully about both abuse and healing. My question is, do you believe forgiveness is necessary for moving on, or can healing actually happen without it?
Yeah. Yes, I've been asked this a fair bit, and I where do I begin? Probably no. I don't think you have to forgive. You have to learn from it though, so
Mm,
that you're not repeating those actions and not finding yourself back into those situations. Um, and that doesn't mean that you're condoning the actions, all right? But
mm,
I think for me, it was a matter of accepting what had happened and deciding that that was not going to define me. So I'm taking that power away from people by enabling myself to move through it.
mm,
So, yes, it's not condoning, it's accepting and then working out what I can learn from this. How do I become stronger because of it?
mm,
So that should answer that. So yeah, I don't forgive. I just don't forget.
mm,
So, but I accept.
mm,
I've never had to. Well, for me, confronting people doesn't work.
mm,
I sort of can't do that. I sort of shut down, and I think that's just sort of PTSD sort of um action. It's like a survival thing for me. It's like
mm,
no, I'm just gonna like be quiet. So confrontation doesn't work. Asking people for forgiveness doesn't work. And I think the thing is, sometimes you just can't get through to people. People
mm,
don't see what's going on or what their actions have produced. They don't have the emotional what am I trying to say? They don't have the capacity to work out what's going on. And so you'll
mm,
never get through to those people. So trying to confront them or talk to them, it's not going to get you anywhere. And I'm one
mm,
for very much, it's wasted energy. So let's just deal with what I have control over or what is more productive. And that's how I've dealt through life. But having said that, some people do need forgiveness. Some people do need confrontation. So I'm not taking that away from them. I'm just talking about myself, and for me, it doesn't work.
mm. Yeah, there's a quote. It's something like those who are hardest to love need the love the most. But I also think that doesn't mean that you have to your point, it just sounds like boundaries are really important. And
Yeah,
it's like we have to sort of figure out what that is for us. You know,
you do. That's
there's no
right.
one size fits all. And yeah,
Yeah. That quote was
forget.
beautiful.
Yeah, I can't take credit for it, but yeah, I remember hearing that and saying, wow,
Yeah.
I need to sit with
So
that.
true. It's so true though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
No,
is.
it's really good.
Hmm.
Yeah. Would you like me to read a poem?
I would love that.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have any requests or things?
So how about this? So it's the Resilient Author Podcast. We have a lot of people who maybe they've started a book, they haven't finished it, they want to start, but they don't know where to go. I don't know if that helps, but that's our audience.
Okay. This one's called When Hope Appears as the Darkest of Greys. You are bound black gloss poured along dermal pores, raven as nightfall, without stars to look upon your summit, as morning air tinctures this death sleep dark drab. Unlit words fail you in this ebb, dressed in your black suit of sackcloth and ash. Your pigment salts its hue 9 to 5, wherein the blackest root, dark grey, is full of hope, but escapes you nonetheless as sand slips between crevices, drawn by gravity to meld with earth. You page the dictionary of strange animals. With craft harangued with dialogue from your depths, this nadir of colourless paint drips pure. You are an instrument of measurement, an animograph perceiving the force of wind, a writer cognizant of life, aching for a zenith.
Mm. You are a wordsmith, Nadine. Goodness
You're very
gracious.
sweet.
Wow, I'm just curious. When you were reading that, I was also enjoying hearing you read it. Do you have an audio version of your poems?
I do, no, I don't, but I do
Mm.
have a couple of them that I've spoken onto my author website. And yeah, look,
Mm.
it's something that I've actually been asked a few times about doing some recordings. So I think that's something maybe to think about moving forward. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I do enjoy reading them. I I,
Mm.
I always feel speaking to people is very anxiety sort of generating for me. But when I get up and I actually have the opportunity to do like an open mic and read to people, I like that connection, and
Mm.
people obviously connect with me, and it's nice. It's sort of I feel like I'm in a community. It's very supportive. So I would
Mm.
encourage people to share their writing. It's a moment of exhilaration at times. It's good.
Mm. I
Mm.
also too want to acknowledge, poetry, obviously it's the words, but I also think it's the cadence in which the words are shared. And I was really like, you really had me in your cadence. Like it was like it really flowed the way you were reading it. Like I think sometimes you have to let certain words breathe a little bit and create space, and you did all that. So yeah,
Thank you.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, thank you. No, my pleasure. Thank you for enabling me to do that.
Absolutely. That was our first poem on the Resilient Author podcast. So hopefully it won't
Oh,
be the last.
right. Well, I can give you another one if you want.
How about we close with one? I've got a couple more
All right.
questions, but maybe we can wrap up one if you're okay with that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, this one's called Decent. With lavish intrigue for honey and its viscosity, I'd unfurl curtsies to the ballet clock and scamper downstairs to the delectable honey shop, lined with buckets of tenacious fluid, amber-hued aquariums filled with the exotic, acacia, leatherwood. Turn the little plastic handle, release a ropey twirl of sugar heaven, roll the thick mix of bee and flower in my mouth, like a venacious swirl of Merlot to a gentleman, a honey vigneron at 8, and then pedal the half-hour back, tripping across Miller's yard to where lilting wax swelled to 2 trolleys of hives parked along the boundary fence, 3 boxes per flat top, with caster wheels for manoeuvrability or ease of distance. I watch the confetti of bees wisp into their compound and feel their buzz wrap my skin till my mother's voice outbuzzed the bees calling me home. 20 years pass and I smear cold-pressed sweetness across my toast, honey that my father extracted from grandfather's hives, hives I've never seen. But when the honey rubs against my tongue, I feel the paint flakes give way to my fingers as I brush along the box and see the bees panic as we puff the smoke into their hexagonal lives, tricking their viscid wealth from them in the haze of manufactured fire. They fly blind to the truth, wanting to save their vital fluids, and then collectively give over what they made but was always never theirs. And tomorrow, I hold my thumbnail to the horizon, and its width is hot fuchsia pink, a paint spill bleeding out to burnished orange as the morning rises to new flowers. And I will suck the pollen from their flower pits and share the honey's essence with the bees.
Mm. So descriptive. Like I literally felt like I was just like watching that entire poem unravel. Sounds like you're painting with words.
Mm,
Thank you for
nice.
sharing.
No, my pleasure.
Hmm.
Thank you.
So Nadine, a lot of our listeners are sitting on a story but haven't started yet. Maybe they've started a couple poems, maybe they've, opened up a couple of documents and typed a couple words, but it's just not done. What would you say to someone who feels called to write but isn't sure they're ready or just hasn't
Yeah,
hasn't got it going?
just do it.
Mm,
Just do it. Put pen to paper and just do it. I think we stop ourselves a lot because we expect so much of us. We want to be successful. We want to make an impact, but we forget you've got to start with baby steps, one foot in front of the other, pen to
mm,
paper, word by word by word. And it's those little tiny efforts they build, and that's where you get that result from hours of just writing. So just write, just do it. It doesn't have to be good. It's just that process of building a practice, and um just get up in the morning or do it at night, 5 minutes a day, just put pen to paper and just start practicing, and you get better at it. And then eventually your brain just sort of, oh, okay, we're going to write now, and things will develop. But you must start. You must start and keep reminding yourself, just be kind. you know,
mm.
it's not going to be fantastic. It's
Mm,
not to start with, but it's starting. That's the important stuff. And you do get better with time, and go get some skills. Go join a workshop group, get a mentor, do some formal training, read, read, read. You must read. And like for me, I'm dyslexic, so reading is hard, but I try to read poetry and I enjoy reading poetry. So whatever it is that you want to write, make sure you're reading that genre and as much of it, and mixed, and just immense, sort of immerse yourself in that sort of cultural whatever it is, and
mm,
enjoy it. If it's painful, then you might want to sort of think about it. But it's going to be challenging. It's going to have its moments, but nothing easy is worth doing. So
mm,
yeah. And
mm,
the thing, the internet's amazing now. You've got so much access to rich, raw voices that I didn't have when I was growing up. So utilize everything that's around you, and get out there, and yeah, just do
mm.
it.
Just do it. The
Just do
internet
it.
is amazing, Nadine.
It
The
is.
internet is
Just do
amazing.
it.
Just do it. I love it.
Do it.
Before we close, I would just love to know just like what you're up to now. Like what are you working on that you're excited about? I know you mentioned the second book. Any
Yeah.
projects? Any creative work on the horizon? Could you open up about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I've literally just spent this last year, as soon as the other book came out in July. Um, no, actually, it was more from September last year. So as soon as I actually put that first manuscript in, I started writing the second manuscript. So I basically spent this past year writing my next book, which I've just sent off last night, like I've said. So I'm like, I'm in relief.
Yeah,
It was like,
congratulations. Yeah.
thank you. I really wanted to get that into the publisher before I went overseas on Monday. So that's my immediate thing. I feel like I've just been like pulling things out of me for this past year, that I'm really ready to soak stuff back in. I'm like
Mm,
the sponge that's been sort of ringed. So
mm,
hence the Europe trip's going to be my opportunity to see nature, see different people, and experience things, and hopefully I'll be able to generate lots and lots of notebooks of sort of experiences in that I can then, when I come back home, sit quietly and draw from, and then spend the following year working on another manuscript. So
mm.
yeah, I also am doing a fine arts degree as well. So I sort of do that on the side just to keep myself academically sort of challenged. So that's what I'll be doing when I come back next year as well, just doing some part-time studies and just soaking it all up.
That sounds
That's the
amazing.
plan.
Yeah, not asking for any spoilers, but is your second book, is it poetry, or are you going in a
Poetry,
different direction?
yes,
Yeah,
it's
excellent.
poetry. Yeah, yeah.
Excellent.
So again, I think it's sort of more retrospective.
Hmm.
I think I'm really happy with it. It's about everyday life, a lot of sort of moments where I've been able to sort of look back on earlier events and be retrospective and put my 2 cents worth, a little bit of venom here and there. Um, you know, but yeah, if you like the first one, you'll love this next one.
Well, we'll
So yeah,
definitely have to
wait
look out
for
for that, and maybe do
yeah.
a part two when it
It'd be
comes out.
lovely. Yeah, I'd love to come
Mm.
back and talk about that one. So yeah.
Excellent, Nadine. So I'm going to invite you to come into our lightning round. I've got 5 questions for you. You don't have to think too hard about the answer. It's just kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you're open to it.
Yep, go for it.
All right. So what's one book that changed your life?
Mm. It would be Sharon Olds. She probably The Dead and the Living. All right.
Mm,
I love Sharon Olds. She's an American poet. So The Dead and the Living. She also did like The Gold Cell. Oh, she did so many. She's
mm,
brilliant. She's
mm,
really raw and gutsy and tells it as it is,
mm,
shocking.
mm,
I'd love to be her writing. Oh, she's brilliant. Yeah.
mm. If you could have dinner with any author, past or present, who would it be?
Besides Sharon Olds, um, I think Emily Dickinson.
Mm,
Love Emily Dickinson. She was probably the first poet that I was exposed to at high school that really made an impact. And loved her poem Because I Could Not Stop for Death. Oh, that was
mm,
it for me. That was that moment where I thought, I probably don't want to be in her life, but having to meet her would be brilliant. I'd love to sit and pick her brain. Yeah,
mm, mm.
yeah.
When it comes to getting ideas out, are you more of a writer or a talker?
Oh, writer. Yeah, writer.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Could you finish this sentence? Writing my book taught me to.
Blank. Um, I don't know. I'd have to write about it.
That's an answer.
What did
That's
it
an
do?
answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
No, no worries. In one
Look,
word.
it taught me that I can survive. Yeah.
Mm, there we go. There we go.
Mm.
In one word, what does resilience mean to you?
Living.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. So this is what I like to call kind of the final chapter, just to close it up. If you could leave just one piece of advice or encouragement with our listeners, something that they'll take long after this episode is over, what would it
Mm.
be?
Be kind to yourself.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
We're all so hard on ourselves. We're just trying to do the best we can.
mm.
Yeah, be kind to yourself. Yeah.
That's a really good reminder. Before we wrap up, Nadine, where can people find your book and
Hmm.
continue to follow your journey?
Okay, so the book itself, The Grey Between, oh, I'll show you the cover of it. Here we go. You see that all
Uh,
right? Grey
yeah, that's
Between.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
That is available globally on Amazon. And basically, I think everywhere you should be able to sort of online find it. But yeah, Amazon globally. Um, my author site is www.nadineellis.com. So NadineEllis.com. And I'm on Instagram as well at Nadine Ellis Poetry. So that's all one word. So the Instagram has a lot of my newer work and other podcast links, and I'll put yours up there as well.
Excellent.
But yeah, so if you're interested in more recent poetry, that's on Instagram, and the author site at the moment is just really dealing with the grade between.
Mm. Nadine, this was truly a treat. Thank you so much for sharing your story and opening your heart a bit for our audience. This was
Oh,
really nice. Thank you.
thank you. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Resilient Author Podcast. I hope today's conversation gave you both inspiration and practical tools for your own journey. If you've been carrying the idea for a book, but haven't started, or you started and feel stuck, I'd love to invite you to join my 5-day Speak Your Book Challenge. In just 5 days, you'll speak the outline of your first draft and discover how to turn it into a finished manuscript and a published book. You can join anytime at voicetobook.co/challenge. Until next time, keep going, stay resilient, and remember, your story matters.